This is Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome to another episode of the Sports Bettor Court. I am your host, your judge, your arbitrator, all of the above. I am Dan Lust. Tonight, we're going to be talking about three betting topics. We're talking about the college football national champion, receiving prop for Devonta Smith, and last but not least, we're going to talk about the New England Patriots win total. But before we get there, a little bit of lust for law. Some big news in the sports betting world today. PENN, Barstool, no more. PENN has divested their shares, given it back to Dave Portnoy. We'll talk about the little bit of specifics, the devil in details with respect to that. PENN is launching a new endeavor with ESPN Bet. Now, over in the world of college football, we have a little bit of pandemonium. We have the Big Ten now becoming the Big 18. We have the Big 12 now becoming a little bit bigger. And the SEC, everyone's kind of looking over there. And the Pac-12, no one knows where to find it. So we have a world now in 2023. We are living in the future. They say follow the money. And that's exactly what's happening here. The world of sports betting has been turned on its head. There once was a time where ESPN was not allowed to talk about bets. Now we have an ESPN bet, and Barstool is now valued at close to $1 billion. Why? Betting. Follow the money. Now, speaking of money, there once was a time where former NCAA president Mark Emmert said that under his watch, college athletes will never be paid. But we are in the midst of the NIL era. It is very much an arms race in the world of college football and college basketball. And now what do we have to do? That's right. Follow the money. Sports betting is where it's at in terms of money. That's why we're talking about ESPN. We're talking about PENN and Barstool. For college football, we have to follow the television money. Now, Pac-12 couldn't get their act together. They couldn't lock down that Apple TV deal. And what happened? All those schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Colorado, you know what they did? They followed the money out of the Pac-12 and into the Big Ten and the Big 12. And now we're left without really a Power 5 situation, very much a Power 4 situation. So yes, once upon a time, there was a world where college football was pure, and you had schools on the West Coast and the East Coast and Middle America, and the Big Ten actually had 10 schools, and the Big 12 actually had 12 schools. No more. We follow the money. And when you ask yourself, how does any of this make sense? Why does ESPN have a betting platform? Why is Barstool worth $1 million? Why are USC and UCLA playing in Middle America? We follow the money. And that has been Lust for Law. And this is the Sports Bettor Court. And with that, we come from our break. We'll welcome back our litigants. We have a special show for you tonight. College football, Devonta Smith, and the New England Patriots when we come back.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in dynasty fantasy football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
Sports Bettor Court is now in session. It's time for tonight's litigants. First, Raphael Rabe, aka Real Talk Raph, co-founder of RotoBaller. You can read award-winning content at rotoballer.com or through the free RotoBaller app. Hear Raph weekday mornings from 6 to 7 a.m. on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio and follow on Twitter at Real Talk Raph. Next, Tanner Kern, analyst and contributor at DraftKings. Check out his content on TikTok at Tanner Kern and follow on Twitter at TannerKern_. All rise for the Honorable Judge Dan Lust.
Welcome, gentlemen. Our litigants are in the courtroom. You guys know the rules. Best 2 out of 3. Whoever makes the best argument, whoever allocates their points the best, whoever doesn't get in trouble with the judge. Okay, let us start. We talked a little bit about college football in the open. I am looking at a number of teams to be the national championship winner. I'm seeing some favorites. I'm seeing some dogs. Mr. Kern, I will turn to you first. Who is your bet to win the national champion of college football?
Well, it's one bet. It's the only bet. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. You're getting them for 2-1 right now, and the odds aren't amazing on that, but it's for a reason. It's the best team in the country by far. The one position that they have to fill is quarterback. The Stetson Bennett era is finally over. Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff are going to battle for that starting job, but no matter who wins it, they have a loaded group to work with. Brock Bowers, the nation's best tight end. They're returning 4 of 5 starters up front on the offensive line, so they are stacked on offense. And then last year was actually their rebuilding year on defense. So they're returning a ton of guys with a lot of experience. The one area that they are a little weak in is the outside linebacking crew, but their front 7 is legitimate. They're going to be able to stop the run at a high level, and that's exactly what you need to do in the SEC. Another thing in favor of the Bulldogs is their schedule is an absolute joke this season. They're going to have no problem getting to the SEC championship game. And even if they were to lose in the SEC championship game, they're still going to be undefeated. There's a reason their win total is set at 11.5. So I do see them going undefeated in the regular season, battling it out with Alabama in the SEC title game. And if they lose that, they're still getting into the playoffs because the SEC is going to get 2 teams. So very high on Georgia to win national championship. It's 2-1 for a reason.
Tanner, I like it. You're very confident, but you are sitting. Raph is standing. That's what you're supposed to do when you get in front of the judge. Raph, who do you like? I think, Raph, you are on mute, my friend. That is a negative point, and I did not mute you.
I apologize, Judge. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's easy.
One strike here.
It's easy for Tanner to pick the favorite here. Of course, not one person would ever assume they would go 3 in a row, right? Because that's what Georgia's going to have to do here. But realistically, it's all about Caleb Williams. And when you want a winner in college football, that's kind of how you start. The great quarterbacks. This is in the same vein as the Tuas and the Pat Mahomes. This is full athleticism, fully arrived. And when you look at how the path from 12 to higher up in the standings comes about, it's with this type of play. I think you can start shredding strength of schedule. That's a little bit of hogwash. I don't think USC is going to have that much of a hard time.
Hogwash? There's no cursing in that courtroom.
It's a little tiny bit.
Say hogwash in here. Go ahead.
I apologize, Judge. I will keep my language more clean and pristine. But at this point, we look at some of the reality, and this is exactly the problem. If you don't have the great quarterback in college football, you ain't going anywhere. So I'm going to ride Caleb Williams all the way. USC probably to number 1 this year, and that's my strong feeling.
Okay, Tanner, I have a question for you, my friend. Those fancy quarterbacks you mentioned, Carson Beck. What was the other guy's name?
Brock Vandagriff.
Brock Vandagriff. Everybody knows his name, Brock Vandagriff. Over under 1 career passing attempt for Brock Vandagriff.
So they're both going to be under.
Yeah,
If you
answer
look
the
at
question, Tanner. Over or under?
Under.
Okay. And how about Mr. Beck? Over or under 60 passing attempts? 60.
Probably about under. I don't have the exact numbers for you, Judge. I'd say under.
You think that Georgia is going to win back-to-back championships with a quarterback room with 60 combined passing attempts? I feel like that's a lot to ask of someone to get the keys to the Georgia ship and lead them to the promised land. That seems like a tall task.
So I wouldn't call Stetson Bennett the best quarterback in the world. I know he's taken the 4th round. He's excelling with the Rams, but he obviously won without being the guy, right? He had a huge team around him, and that's exactly what this Georgia team is going to rely on this year. We see in the SEC too over the past few seasons. I look back to Mac Jones. I wouldn't call Mac Jones the most talented quarterback in the world, right? And when he burst onto the scene, he wasn't expected to be a first-round draft pick, but he had so much talent around him. And just going to Caleb Williams, I agree. He's the best player in the country. He's going to win the Heisman probably again, which back-to-back Heisman hasn't been done since 75. But when we look at this USC defense, they're not that good. They have a much tougher path, and the Pac-12 is going to be lucky to get one team in the college football playoffs. So
Pac-12 is going to be lucky to exist in the next 5 minutes at this rate.
That's
you're right. Good point.
So Tanner, let's hang here for a second. You want back-to-back champions for Georgia, right? Has that ever been done in the history of college football?
Yeah, 30s. Minnesota did it.
Was that like recent or like in the night? Like 100 years ago. Got it. Okay.
Years ago.
Okay, Raph, 14-1. I'm looking at the odds here. It seems kind of juicy to get the best player in all of college football, a premier team, a blue bud. What am I missing? It sounds like a great bet.
Yeah, no, you're not missing much, right? Like that's sometimes you don't have to overanalyze it. And when you're looking at premium betting, that's where you're trying to get some edge. Like where are you going to get upside? And it's with that it factor with a player like Caleb Williams. So I don't think that's up for discussion, right? Like keep him healthy and see what happens. But realistically, almost any prop you're going over and you like that 14-1, just pretty damn decent to me. So yeah, I'll let that ride any day of the week.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I actually don't know who I'm going to side with. I'll get you guys to have the last word here. So Tanner, what's the number? It's plus 250 for Georgia. That's the number.
225.
I just think. I mean, obviously the most talented football team in the country. I think the last time a team won back-to-back was Bama. They ended up winning 3 out of the last 4 within the last 10 years. But, I mean, Stetson Bennett was like 40 when he was leading the team. Carson Beck seems to be like a normal aged person. It looks like he's going to get the job here. I think you're putting a lot on the shoulders, right? In this day and age, right? You lose 2 games. I don't know it. 2.5-1. I'm not sure I buy USC. They got to get through a really kind of daunted Big Ten. Schedule's kind of tough. Tanner, I'm going to let you have the last word here. You think this is the year, first time in nearly 100 years, we have back-to-back champions? Why is it Georgia?
I mean, if anyone's going to do it, it's Georgia. You look at their schedule. The first thing you got to do to win a national championship is to get into the college football playoff. Georgia will be in it. They got UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB. They're tough games, I would say. Versus Florida at home, versus Ole Miss at home, and at Tennessee. There's nothing on that schedule that they can't handle, especially with how talented they are. We go to USC. They have a much tougher path to get there against teams like Oregon, Washington, and Utah. And then on top of that, too, when you look at the Georgia Bulldogs, or you look at USC, I should say, I'll go to them. Defensively, they were 94th in the country in scoring defense last year. They allowed they were 8th worst in yards per play. So they could have all the offense they want. I mean, Georgia's offense was good last year. They had the best tight end in the country coming back. But the bottom line is their defense is amazing. They play in the SEC. They play a much tougher schedule. So when they get to the college football playoff, they're going to be just fine.
Raph, do you think you won this round?
I mean, hey, it's pretty convincing.
Yes or no, Raph? Yes or no?
I just like the odds, so I'm going to say yes.
Listen to this. I listened to both. They're both very well thought out, but in Judge Lust's courtroom, fortune favors the bold. Raph, 14-1. I'm going to give you here. Okay, it seems a little juicy. I don't know if you articulated the best. You got scared by Tanner's arguments. I'm going to give you round 1 here. Okay, Tanner, you can win this back. Raph, speak when spoken to, okay? I got you. There'll be plenty of time to make up for it here in round 2. BetMGM, get 1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win by using fantasyalarm.com/BetMGM. Now, gentlemen, we are very close to football season. We are several weeks away. It's August, right? We're Hard Knocks is about to be on us. I can almost smell football season. Raph, I'm going to have you start here. Are you still standing, by the way? I just want to make sure the record's clear.
Of course, Judge. Of course.
Okay. Is this a standing death situation, or you're just standing to show respect for Judge Lust?
Coincidentally, both. They coincide, but yes.
Not sure.
I would never sit for you. Let's put it that way.
Well, what if the judge told you to sit? Don't answer that question. Devonta Smith receiving yards. The over under is 975.5 per sources. That's actually my bailiff, Anthony. I'm told you're very confident in one of these lines here. Raph, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a clear over. It's not even a question about over. I mean, everything screams over about that line. First of all, I'm not even an Eagles fan. I just want to say that because you would think I was this bullish, but the reality is tethered to what I think is an ascending Jalen Hurts in terms of the air game. It's been every year more attempts and more passing yards. But what really stood out was Devonta Smith's resilience and second-year breakout. 136 targets, 1,300 plus air yards, 95 catches for 1,100, almost 1,200 receiving yards. So the fact that he kind of looks like a quasi-alpha in this offense, and A.J. Brown has his own issues with health in the past, if anything were to even happen to A.J. Brown, this guy could be top 3, 4, 5 in fantasy, period. And given what I can see with this offense and his ascension, there is pretty much no question that he eclipses 1,000 receiving yards. That's going to be easy peasy for Devonta Smith this year.
Quasi-alpha doesn't sound that confident. Tanner, you like the under here?
I do like the under here on Devonta Smith. I think there's a lot of moving pieces for this Eagles team. First of all, they made it to the Super Bowl last year. It's very hard to get back. It's very hard to repeat a season like they did. And that the same goes for Jalen Hurts, right? And Devonta Smith's over is predicated on how well Jalen Hurts plays this year. I mean, Hurts had a career season last year. There's no doubt about it. 3,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. So we look at that. He was as efficient as he got. And Devonta Smith had 1196 last year. He had a lot of breakout games. And the Eagles play in the toughest division, one of the toughest divisions in football. They're playing the Cowboys. They have the Patriots on the road this season. They have a lot of tough games too. And they lost their offensive coordinator. So there's so many moving pieces in Philadelphia right now. I'm not saying they're in for a letdown season, but I do think it's going to be a lot tougher sledding this year for Devonta Smith and the offense.
Now, for those doing their homework, have been with us for all 5 episodes of the Sports Bettor Court, we actually talked about Jalen Hurts, his passing yards, whether those are going to go up and down. And if people recall, that number is right at 3,700. So last year he did 3,701. The passing yards over under for Jalen Hurts is right there. So the books didn't really know where to put it. They just left it where it was last year. So the books aren't really sure if Jalen Hurts is going to go up, if he's going to get hurt. It's right at 3,700. So Raph, I'm going to go back to you here. You said he's a quasi-alpha, this. The last I checked, we have 2 years of sample size for Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts. 2 years. What makes you so confident that he's going to be over 975? I'm not sure I see it when he's the second best wide receiver on that team.
Well, I'm not sure that he's the second best. It's really a 1A situation. When I say quasi, I should say, there's no shame in having 2 number 1 receivers, which in a fantasy term or any kind of reality of this gaming world that we live in, that would be fantastic. I just want to produce one metric for you. Jalen Hurts was 16th in pass attempts, but 10th in passing yards. Imagine if those pass attempts went up, right? That's a very clear path to an increase. He was 16th. That's not really that much up there. Now, yeah, he was at 460. That's a fine line to cross. But again, when you're talking about what Devonta Smith is, he's more like Devontae Adams than anyone else. That to me is the comp that you should be looking at there.
Did we just say that Devontae Adams is the same player as Devonta Smith because they have the same first name, Raph? I don't have a mute button.
Archetype.
I'm not sure I like this Devontae argument. I'm not sure I like that. Tanner, okay, pop quiz. The judge comes with some facts. By the way, Raph, I did like that you submitted evidence to the judge. That was pretty good, but you have to ask the judge to submit evidence. Raph, you're getting in my doghouse here. The rule of Devontae's, that is not well accepted law in Judge Lust's courthouse. Okay, Tanner, pop quiz here. Who is the Eagles' backup quarterback?
The Eagles' backup.
Don't look this up. No outside evidence.
Not looking up. I'm thinking from quarterback. It's in my head right now. It's Mariota. Obviously, he wasn't there last year, but Mariota.
Mariota, you definitely looked it up on Google?
Nope. Hands up. Mariota.
Okay. I saw the screen flag.
Now, this is a very important part of the bet, right? We're talking about over or under. The Eagles probably have one of the best backups in all of football. Had a decent year last year with the Atlanta Falcons. I might say that this might help Raph's argument. We might say, hey, Hurts is going to get injured, right? He's due. He's a running quarterback, but they have Mariota behind him to kind of back him up and maybe juice up that over a little bit. Tanner, do you think that Jalen Hurts, this is a question for you specifically, Jalen Hurts is on the ascent? Do you think he's going to throw for more yards? The judge thinks he might.
I don't see him throwing for more yards this year. No, I think he set such a high standard last year. They're going to have a much tougher time this year. against the NFC East, and then their crossover games against the AFC East. None of those games are going to be easy for him. A new offensive coordinator in there. He lost his running back too, so that puts more pressure on him. They have DeAndre Swift, obviously, but Miles Sanders is gone. He was a 1,200-yard rusher. So that just takes an element of the Eagles passing game, or the Eagles offense away. So we're going to see a lot more pressure on Jalen Hurts. I don't know if he lives up to it, and I need to see a bigger sample size before I'm willing to bet on Devonta Smith, considering he went under in his first year, and then last year he went over. But a new offensive coordinator, a new system, a lot of new moving pieces in there, and high expectations don't always equal high results.
I'm in agreement. So, Raph, let's go back to you here. You said you have two with number one wide receivers. This is betting. We're not talking about fantasy. You can't have two number ones. You have one number one. I'm of the opinion that A.J. Brown is the superior player to Devonta Smith. That's where I want to put my stock, no?
A.J. Brown is great. There's no question. Devonta Smith has had 2 years in the league. He's almost smashed the over his first year and well smashed it last year, and has played 17 in 17 games. Durability, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. And that, to me, for the former first rounder with tremendous pedigree, just like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith delivering. He could be the dark horse number one there, but he's just as good, in my opinion.
I'm going to disagree on every point that you just made. A.J. Brown had 1,500 yards last year. There is no comparison. He had 11 touchdowns. Raph, how many touchdowns did Devonta Smith have?
Not that many.
Not that many. 7. And how many touchdowns did Devontae Adams have? Not the same person, Raph.
A lot.
Not the same person. Okay. Tanner, you're taking round 2, 1-1 as we head into the break. When we come back, round 3, New England Patriots, over under 7.5. Do some research, guys. Google it up. We'll be back.
The Detroit Lions select Sam Laporta, tight end, Iowa.
Had to go with your boy Sam Laporta there to pair with TJ Hawkinson.
Sammy, I couldn't double down on rookie tight ends. I think that's taking a little too far.
This could be one of the most exciting rookie tight end classes in a while, just based on the archetypes of these guys, and the Dalton Kincaids and the Sam Laportas. Obviously, Green Bay drafted 2 themselves with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So after Kincaid, I would say is probably the consensus with tight ends. Like, who do you like as far as the best ball, like end of best ball? Do you like Laporta, or is there anybody else you like more?
I do like Laporta. We're looking for guys that can be a top 2 target on their team. So any path, any argument you could make, right? So you can make the argument that Dalton Kincaid is going to be a top 2 target with after Stephon Diggs. You can make an argument that with Jamison Williams suspended, now Sam Laporta is just going to play straight up wide receiver. He looks like a wide receiver. Why can't he line up out wide at split end, right? It's like Marvin Jones and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would also throw another name in the ring, and I don't mind, since we're doing this for the fans, for the kids. He's still on the board. Luke Musgrave on your Packers. They're not super loaded at wide receiver. We like the guy Reed they drafted, but you never know. So why can't Luke Musgrave be a big slot? In fact, they drafted 2 tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Tucker Kraft is more of an inline guy. They might just go 2 tight ends right away. Tucker Kraft inline, Luke Musgrave in the slot. Why can't he be a target monster for Jordan Love? So those are the guys, those are the conditions that you need for a rookie tight end to succeed. They need to not only be the best pass catching tight end on the team, but a top 2 pass catcher on the team outright. That's how you get Kyle Pitts. Evan Ingram as a rookie was top 5 because Odell Beckham Jr. hurt his knee 4 weeks into the year. So that's the formula. We're looking for guys that can actually be a top target right away. Otherwise, we're playing the sit and wait long-term game, which is what you're doing with guys like Michael Mayer.
All rise for Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
We are back for round 3, the rubber match. Before we get there, a little bit of business. Fantasy Alarms All-Pro subscription plus fantasy football draft guide and cheat sheet. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarms All-Pro subscription and get the fantasy football draft guide and cheat sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. Gentlemen, we enter round 3. We're limping to the finish line here. I heard the Devontae rule, right? If your name's Devontae, you're basically just as good as the other Devontae. And then I heard the rule of 100s, that we're going to see something happen for the first time in 100 years, a 3-peat champion. Okay, Gentlemen, it's a fresh slate here, clean slate. Okay, we have to have a winner here. Raph, you got the first round. Tanner, you got round 2. We are taking our third and final bet to Foxborough. Now, listeners of the show will remember that we actually covered this bet a few weeks ago. But Tanner, Raph, they heard the bet and they said, you know what? We think we should revisit this one. So the judge, listen, sometimes people make a motion for re-argument. That's what's happening here. Last time I think I was on the over. I looked at the franchise encyclopedia. We'll get into it. But I guess we'll see here. So Tanner, I'm going to start with you. I'm inclined to take the over on 7.5. If you did your research on the judge, that's where I came out last time. So Raph, you have a little bit of an uphill battle here. So Tanner, lay out the argument. Why are the Patriots going over 7.5?
Because it's not that bad of a football team. That's the bottom line here. Mac Jones, we go back to his rookie season. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback. He had one of the best seasons of a rookie quarterback in NFL history. And last year, he took a step back because he didn't have an offensive coach, right? He had 2 defensive-minded coaches who had never called offense in the NFL before. So that definitely set him back. But overall, the talent on this football team is not bad. Their defense is actually really good. I'll talk about that, after this. But when I look at the offense here, they have some talent. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to help this team a lot. He was a number 1 receiver in Kansas City. Now, granted, Mac Jones is no Patrick Mahomes, but still going to help them a lot. They have Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne. They have some guys who can go out, catch the football, and they can run a lot of 2 tight end sets this year as well with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. So I think it's only going to help this offense. They're healthy on the offensive line as well. That's something that we didn't get a lot last season. On defense, when it comes down to it, this team was, I believe, 11th in points allowed per game. They were a top 6 rushing defense. They were middle of the road when it came to their secondary, but they did draft some people that should help in that area. So the defense kept them in games last year. It's going to come down to the offense. And now with Bill O'Brien at the helm, I think Mac Jones is going to take a huge step forward this year. And the Patriots are going to get over that 7.5 win total, which is also the most bet win total on DraftKings Sportsbook this year.
Tanner, you're coming with the facts here. I see you did your research. I like it. Raph, before you start, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do your legs hurt from standing?
Nope. I'm professional. I'm standing all day.
Go ahead.
Here we go. First of all, I'm a Jets fan, so it's easy for me to say, look at this division and where possible. Yeah, I know, Judge, I'm sorry if you don't like this. I have to go rogue because I know you've already ruled, in favor of the Patriots here. But how can they possibly be better than any of the other teams in their division? That's the first question I ask you. And the second thing is, when you look at the strength of schedule, they really weren't great last year. And this year's strength schedule is not really much in their favor. So I don't really expect a tremendous growth potential there. We know that they got a rejuvenation, a difference in offensive coordinator, but how much different is it going to be? We don't know. And the reality is right now, Mac Jones is an unproven commodity, even in this situation that we're in, where people hope that he'll be better. There is no evidence that he'll be better. Great couple of signings here and there, but the Patriots, to me, are still the worst team in their division, and generally bad teams or the worst in their division will not have better than 7 wins. Oh, there it is.
Raph, I like the argument, but you are biased as a Jets fan. I'm from New York. Listen, my Jets fans think that the Jets are going to the Super Bowl. Last I checked, Aaron Rodgers is not a 3-win player near 40, but let's talk about that offline. Here's the argument for the New England Patriots, and I think Tanner touched on it. Since the Bill Belichick era started in 2000, in year 1 of Bill Belichick, they went 5-11. Okay, he's got to purge he's got to get the stink out. He's got to get the Bill Belichick stuff in. Okay. From 2001, which is Bill Belichick's second full season, they have reached or eclipsed the 8-win plateau. So over 7.5 every year but 1 year. And that 1 year was that weird Cam Newton year when they didn't have Mac. It was the weird transition year. So history tells us, a lot of history, 20 plus years of history, Bill Belichick plus New England Patriots equals 8+ wins. And not just 8+ wins. 10 wins, 12 wins, 11 wins. Yes, I understand Brady is not there anymore. But even in the Mac Jones era, 10 wins and 8 wins in the last 2 years. Tanner, I'm leaning towards you here. How about this bet that the Patriots are the worst team in the division? There might be some juice there with strength of schedule. Maybe we're getting a little bit closer to 8.5, 8, 7.5, maybe.
The division, you can say they are going to be the worst team in the division. On paper, they might be the worst team in the division, but paper doesn't mean it's going to result in wins, right? I can give you a reason why I don't like any of these teams, right? You look at Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they haven't been able to win the big game. They might dominate the regular season, but the big game cost them a lot. The New York Jets, I mean.
Why did you just defame Josh Allen? Why did Josh Allen just get astray?
Allen.
I don't appreciate that.
He said, so Josh Allen came out and said, we might not win the division. We'll get in with the wild card. I don't know if you saw that quote.
The judge sees everything. I see everything. I'm omnipotent. I'm omniscient. I know everything. Hold on, Tanner. Don't slander Josh Allen's best player in all of football. Raph, let's hang here. Okay, listen. You know where the judges decided in the past. You really have the harder argument here. I'm not sure why this line is 7.5, but if you do believe, right? If you do believe in your Jets, right? Doesn't that really kind of show that the New England Patriots, maybe they just give up? Maybe they throw in the towel. Maybe they say, you know what? We're just going to pack it in, and then Bill Belichick will get him fired and we'll clean house. Maybe that's possible. Probably not, but maybe you can tell me.
I hate to say this, Bill Belichick, rumors were he's been on the hot seat. If he doesn't win big this year, then it might be a problem for him as well. People still upset the way he handled that Brady situation, or potentially how the organization did. So I think there's more tension within the ranks than maybe the outsiders are given credit. That could be creating some interesting play calling and scenarios this year in a very tough division. We will see. Very tough division.
The problem is, and Tanner, I'll let you have the final word here. When we're trying to figure out who to bet on, when all the chips are in the middle of the table, we need to figure out what's going to happen, right? Bill Belichick, his legacy's on the line. If he has a really horrendous year and goes 2-15 or is absolutely terrible, yeah, maybe Kraft cuts bait. But don't we think that Bill Belichick is going to show up in the last 2 years, 10 wins and 8 wins with Mac Jones? Tanner, I feel like this might be the lock of the century. Am I insane? I feel like you just have this one.
Yeah, I mean it's the most bet prop on, or most bet win total on DraftKings this year for a reason, right? You have the best coach. You might not have the best team in the division, but you have the best coach, one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL. You have a division which a lot of uncertainty. I'm not going to slander Josh Allen, but the New York Jets have Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator. That's a liability, and the way he called the first Hall of Fame game, he's got a lot of work to do. And then the Miami Dolphins they go with a quarterback who's got concussion issues, right? So I'm not necessarily certain that the Patriots are going to finish last in this division. And there's a lot of winnable games on their schedule. They have the Raiders, they have the Commanders, they have the Colts, they have the Giants. That could be 4 wins right there. You have the Steelers, that's 5.
Interesting.
You have opportunities to win games.
I'm going to say this. In my experience as a bettor, and I wear a lot of hats. I'm a professor. I'm a judge. I'm not really a judge, but I play one on TV. But when a bet to me is such an absolute no-brainer, when it smells a little funny, my experience tells me, I can't believe I'm doing this. Go the other way. This doesn't make any sense. How is the line only 7.5? Raph, I'm going to give you this round. I have no idea what just happened. Somehow I felt so confident in the bet that we go the other way here. Raph, I'm giving you this round. You are the winner. I didn't expect it either. It's just what happens. Sometimes, Tanner, you're ahead. You just got to take the bet and just say, you know what, Judge, I got no more bets. But now I feel suspicious. I feel a little sneaky about this Patriots bets here. Okay, hang tight. Let's do this. We got to figure out my best bet of the whole day. So, Raph, I'm going to give you the win on the show, 2-1. So our winning bets, if memory serves, we said Devonta Adams. We have under. We have the New England Patriots under. And Tanner, do we have you with Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia.
We got to invest wisely here. We got to invest wisely. Okay. I'm ready for this. My New England bet, I'm not really sure about. I'm not really sure why I did this. The judge sometimes is unpredictable, but the judge is always right. So don't worry about my New England bet here. I'm going to go with Georgia here, plus 225. I really do feel pretty confident here. Yes, I think Caleb Williams is kind of fun, and he's going to be he's going to be the Heisman Trophy and all this. But at the end of the day, you got to invest your money wisely. Plus 225. Georgia continues to have the best recruiting class in the country. They could really, Tanner, you could be the quarterback. Raph, you could be the quarterback. They probably do okay. My best bet, we're going to take us to Georgia plus 225 for the future. So Tanner, excellent job. Raph, great job. Judge Luss has been hard at work on legal research. He's getting a little loopy here. He's a little sleep deprived. I want to thank you both very much for entering the courtroom. You both survived. No one got sent to jail. And Raph, just a reminder, just because people have the same first name does not mean that they have anything to do with one another. Thank you very much for joining the Sports Bettor Court. We'll see you next time. Appreciate it, fellas.